Hi, Bill from CJ Pony Parts. A couple months ago we showed you the benefits of the American racing headers that we installed on our 2013 Gotta Have It race car. The fit and finish was excellent, and they made great power as well. So today we're going to install a set on this 2011 Mustang GT. Since this is primarily a street car, we're going to go with a 3-inch X-pipe with the high flow cats and their 1 7/8 inch headers. For this installation you'll need a lift and a pull jack or a jack and jack stands, a flashlight, a panel removal tool, 1/4 inch ratchet, 10mm deep socket, 3/8 ratchet, 13mm deep socket, 13mm shallow socket, 15mm deep socket, 15mm shallow socket, 15mm ratcheting wrench, an assortment of extensions and swivels, a 7/8 or oxygen sensor wrench, copper silicone gasket maker, and safety glasses. Once you've disconnected your battery, the first step is to lock your steering column. Since we're going to disconnect the steering shaft for the installation, if you don't lock the column, the wheel could spin freely and damage your airbag clock spring. With the key out, just turn the wheel until it locks. Since we're going to be disconnecting the steering shaft, we'll remove these 2 bolts for the steering plate going through the firewall. Once you remove the nuts, we're going to pry the plate away from the firewall. Our 2011 already has a supercharger on it, so the stock headers are probably costing us some horsepower. Expecting some pretty good gains with the American racing headers. We're going to loosen up the motor mounts on our driver's side. We're going to remove the bolts on our passenger side to give us more room. Now we're under the car, we're going to remove our H-pipe. We're going to start by removing the O2 sensors. Now we're going to remove our cross member. Now we're going to remove the clamps from our exhaust. Now we'll disconnect the H-pipe from our factory headers. We're going to remove the H-pipe from our tailpipes. Good idea to have a hand here, have someone hold it for you while you hammer them free. Now we're going to remove the oil service pan. Now we're going to remove the starter. We're going to use our pull jack to support the engine so we can remove the motor mount from the passenger side. You want to jack it up on the corner of the pan to make sure you don't damage the wheel pan. First you want to remove this harness from the stud. Now you can remove the bolts. Now we can remove the motor mount bracket and then remove the motor mount itself. Now that everything's out of the way, you can access the header bolts. Best way to get these with a longer extension out beside the control arms. You want to leave one of the easier ones to last. Get the harder ones first. That way the easy one will hold the header in place. You can remove that and pull the header out in one assembly. Now's a good time to disconnect your front O2 sensor. For some of the upper bolts, it's easier to get to them with a ratcheting wrench. Now we're going to move the last bolt, which will free the header and it'll fall down just a little bit. We're going to choose to reuse the factory studs, so we're going to leave them in the heads. You want to make sure the AC lines are clear before you try to pull the header out. Once you remove the header, you want to remove the factory gasket since it's not used with the American racing headers. The kit includes 4 oxygen sensor extensions. The short ones are going to go to your front sensors, the longer ones will go to the rear. Since the American racing headers don't require gaskets, we're going to put a little bit of copper gasket sealant on the head before we install the header. Now we're ready to put our header up into place. Once you have a header in place, you want to put one of the nuts on the studs to hold it in place. You may have to remove one of the two of the studs if it's tight. Usually you can get it on without taking any of them off. Once the header is tightened up, you can reinstall your oxygen sensor, followed by your motor mount and bracket. Make sure you zip tie the harness safely away from the header. Once you're finished with the passenger side, first step in doing the driver's side header, you disconnect the steering shaft. Push the shaft up and out of the way. Now we're going to remove the motor mount bolts that we loosened earlier. We can start removing the header bolts. Now we're ready to remove our header. Now we're going to install the copper gasket sealant on our driver's side head before we put our new header on. Now we're going to slide our header up into place. To get it up in place, we're going to put one nut in to keep it in place so we can get started on the rest. Once your header bolts are tight, you're ready to reinstall your oxygen sensor, as well as your motor mount and your motor mount bracket. Now we're going to reinstall the steering shaft into the coupler. We'll reinstall the oil service shield. Now we can reinstall the cross brace. You want to assemble the catalytics into the X-pipe off the car. Keep everything loose so you can fit it easy once you have it in place. You also want to put the O2 sensors on in advance as well. We'll start by connecting to the header side first. Last step is to connect the rear O2 sensors to the supplied extensions. We'll want to zip tie those safely out of the way. We're excited to hear how our new headers sound, but you want to make sure you don't forget to screw in the plate underneath the dash for the steering column before you take it for a test drive. We're ready to fire up and see how she sounds. Our new headers sound great. Can't wait to get her on the dyno and see what kind of horsepower we got. Just as we've come to expect from American racing headers, the fit and finish was excellent. The sound sounds amazing. Installation, figure on about 6 to 8 hours. We'll be back on the road in no time.